June Summer is the president of the South Shore Food Truck Association and owner of the popular food truck Mom on the Go. June visited with Julie via Zoom.
Welcome, June. Thanks so much for joining us today. I want to dive right into how you got into this business where you own your Mom on the Go food truck. How did you end up here?
Oh boy, it took a while. I was in insurance for many years in the business world for like 23 years, but I've always loved to cook and travel, and food has always been my thing. So about 2 years before I got the food truck, I started research because I really wanted to own a food truck. So then after the 2 years of research, I went for it. I bought a truck and jumped in. That was 2016, almost, yeah, 5 years ago.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah,
Now, you're
thanks.
the president of the South Shore Food Truck Association. So let's talk
Yes.
about participants in the association. I went on the website to see, and there's food trucks from all over the place. It's not just the South Shore. It's quite far-reaching how many trucks are involved in this association. So why do participants join, and what is the advantage of joining the Food Truck Association?
Yeah, so, coming from an insurance background, we always had associations. It's a very old industry. Food trucking is obviously a newer industry, and there wasn't any association. So about a year after I had my food truck, I started asking some of the other food trucks, geez, do you want to kind of form an association? And honestly, at the beginning, everyone was a little suspicious of why would we do this? And my philosophy has always been, a rising tide raises all ships. So, when you own a food truck, it's very singular, and, you're committing to sometimes people's weddings or graduations, things that are, important in people's lives. And I always worried about the truck breaking down or me not being able to get to a committed event. So I thought, gee, it'd be great to have sort of a network. And then there's also the places, the larger places that want multiple food trucks, and there was no way to really coordinate that. So I started the association, and we started off with 10 trucks, and now we have like almost 35 members. And we named it the South Shore Food Truck Association because at one time there was a Boston Association, but now that's defunct. So trucks from all over kind of ask and want to join and so forth. But the benefit is camaraderie. We learn from each other. New trucks get a ton of information. Now we have sort of leverage with festivals. So in other words, if a organizer wants to set up a festival, they'll come to us, and our trucks get asked to be at these things first, because we're organized. And now there's a way to, a website so people can go on and book trucks. And it's just been a great experience.
Yeah, it's. I was pretty amazed when I went on the website because you don't realize, you see a food truck here or there and you don't realize how many there are and how many different offerings they have. Some are just desserts, some are full, Italian, some are seafood.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And that was a good point about you're kind of a mutual aid for each other. We've
Yes.
noticed that, especially like in the craft brewing industry around here, restaurants in Plymouth, they tend to really support each other, especially over the past year, which has been wonderful. That's terrific.
Yeah, for
And I had a question. Are food trucks more often hired to do a private event, a specialty occasion, or is more of your business geared towards the more public offerings, like public events, like fairs or festivals? What percentage of your business is which?
Well, so every food truck's a little different. We always say that there's three revenue streams for food trucks, and one of them is the festivals. Another one would be the private catering, and then the third leg of that would be if you're at a specific spot all the time. So kind of vending daily. So each truck has sort of a different mix. So we have Mom on the Go we have two trucks now, and we don't do any daily vending. We don't have a specific spot, so we only do private catering and festivals. So, but another truck might just have a daily spot. So it depends on how you want to run your food truck business.
Sure, and you have all kinds of options, which is really cool. Now, what
Yeah.
types of permits or permissions do you need to obtain from either the towns that you're in or can you explain how that process goes?
Yeah, it's actually one of the additional reasons we kind of founded an association. There are other states where you get, say, a statewide permit, but in Massachusetts, it's up to each individual town. So every town that we go to, we have to get a permit, and it costs us thousands of dollars a year. So if you go to 15 towns, you have to be inspected in each town. Um, in addition to having your serve safe certification, your allergen, your fire department permit, your hawkers and peddlers from the state. So it's very cumbersome in Massachusetts. And we hope someday to kind of get that changed. In California, they do it by county.
Right.
In other states they do, you get licensed for the year in your home base.
Yep.
And other towns
And
they
you're all
have
set.
to accept.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
for people
but
around here, when they see a food truck at any given location, whether it's a private entity or a public affair, we'll know that you've been fully vetted and that you're a safe and you're
Yeah.
a good a good offering of food, and people don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's funny because restaurants can be usually inspected 3 times a year, and my food trucks, for example, if I have to do 15 towns, we're inspected like 45 times a year. So we you can feel very safe eating off a food truck. I think there's a little bit of leftover 20, 30 years ago with the roach coach mentality, which is a very different thing. They're not mobile kitchens. So, there's some of that left over, but yeah, we're inspected way more than restaurants are.
That's wonderful. So you're really, really safe. Now, during the pandemic, were there lots of changes of protocols for you for safety, food safety?
Yeah. So a lot of trucks, didn't open at all. And then, we did. I have 2 trucks. It was ironic because my second truck was delivered to me in March of 2020. So we never ended up, using the second truck. There just wasn't enough work, and we really had to change uh, everything we did. So there were no festivals and there were no private events. So we started going around to neighborhoods, and we'd do 15, 20 people, but we'd have to do that 3 or 4 times a day. And with an ice cream truck, people think, oh, they can drive around and play their music, but a food truck is a little different. You have to set up your grill, your fryer, so the setup and breakdown on a food truck is a different thing. So it was hugely labor intensive to probably make about 25% of the income.
Oh, absolutely. And how do you plan on how much food you bring? I mean, how, what if you run out after an hour? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, that's the magic question. So I think new food trucks, their first year, that's the most difficult part, is to know how much to bring. Well, first of all, we're constrained by the size and how much we can bring. So you get better at it. If you're going to serve 100 people, how much you need to bring. Festivals, it can be a crapshoot. You just load up as much as you can. But sometimes we show up to an event where there's supposed to be 100 people, but there's 200. So the last half an hour, you run out of certain items, or so it is difficult, and it's just something you learn with experience over time.
Now, would you suggest this as a business to an entrepreneur who's looking for something different and something lucrative to do?
It's a really fun business. So, I owned a restaurant for a year, a pop-up, while I had my food truck. And I have to say, food trucking is a lot more fun than
Mhm.
owning a restaurant, in my opinion. Um, you're at a different location every day.
Mm.
You're seeing all different people. People are super excited when you pull up. So you don't have too many jobs where you pull up and they're, yay. So that's really great. It's also probably the hardest job I've
Mm.
ever had physically. It's a extremely physically demanding job. So if it's 80 degrees out, you can be guaranteed that it's 95 to 105 inside the food truck,
Sure.
regardless of what we do. So when it gets up to 90 outside, it gets pretty hot in there. So it's very grueling, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Every day's
And
different.
it is lucrative, to answer your question. I mean, it can be. I think, like I said, the first year you make all your mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, you buy too much food, you don't buy enough food.
Yeah.
But it's like any other business. You have to watch your costs
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep, and you learn as you go. Do you
Yeah.
have any upcoming events? And where would people go to
Well,
find out where you're going to be?
yeah, so one of the things that the association has done is we started 4 years ago at the Hanover Mall doing like a food truck Tuesday. So we had like 5 or 6 trucks and people would come. So we're in our 4th year now. So in Hanover, we do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 to 7 at Forge Pond Park, and we have 10 trucks that are there. And we run that April through October. And now we just started doing it in Abington on Wednesday nights. And normally, when we've done this in the past, it takes kind of a few weeks to get up and running before the crowd, knows about it and social media. This year we were hit full tilt the day we opened. I think people were so sick of being inside. They're so excited to get out and do things. So those 3 are some of our regular events. But in Weymouth just approved Friday nights. Um, so there all of a sudden, normally what we do in February and March is book our festivals, our private events. That didn't really happen this year. But I can tell you it's happened over the last, 3 weeks. I mean, we're
Sure.
getting 20,
Everybody's, yeah.
30
Everybody's
a
dying to go.
day.
That was my last question was, you have seasonal issues where clearly in the middle of a snowstorm, you're not going to probably bring your food truck anywhere, but you're saying you do a lot of your planning during those off months.
Yeah, I would say 90% of food trucks here in this area shut down for January and February.
Sure.
It's just not worth it. You have to prevent your tanks from freezing because we
Yeah.
have water tanks.
Yeah.
So, there's no heat in food trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're cooking, it kind of
No air
keeps you
conditioning,
warm.
no heat.
Right, right. So, it's difficult to be, but some do. A few stay open. They might have a regular spot that they go to, or whatever. But
Yeah.
most of us, shut down and then do kind of our planning and booking
Yeah.
over January, February.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for shedding some light on this industry, which I knew nothing about, and it's very, very fascinating. We've enjoyed having you, and you have a wonderful and successful summer.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. To learn more, visit southshorefoodtruckassociation.org.